note. Many people journal a little bit, but I don't think that many people journal what are they feeling, what are they thinking. And that doesn't mean that we need to sit down for like 10 minutes or 5 minutes. It's just a note, having a note and like, oh, I'm feeling this way. I'm noticing this thing. Okay, period. That's it. 30 seconds. Sometimes even a voice note. But once that is in place, we can start seeing patterns across time, especially for females. That is fantastic. It was like, oh, I was talking to a girl that yesterday who was telling me, I know that 5 days prior to my period, I'm going to start feeling this and this and this way. And it's like 5 days, boom. So she knows her body so much that because she's been taking notes of that, not only in the mind, but over in a notepad or her specific notepad.
Welcome to Biohacking with Brittany, where women optimize. I'm your host, Brittany Ford, holistic nutritionist and wellness entrepreneur, and I'm here to help you live in alignment with your body and nature. This podcast blends cutting-edge science with soul-led strategies to support you through every phase of womanhood, from fertility to longevity and everything in between. Each week, we dive into functional medicine, women's health, holistic healing, and biohacking tools that empower you to take control of your wellness journey. Let's redefine what it means to thrive together. Hello, and welcome back to the show. I loved recording this episode with JJ. He was so fabulous. I had the pleasure of meeting him at the Health Optimization Summit in April in Austin, and I took one of his breathwork and meditation classes when I was there. My husband actually did it first, and then I did it, and I was just blown away. I felt so much better, and I went up to him afterwards and I said, hey, you got to come on my podcast and we got to talk about this. So that's what today's interview is all about, is breath, really, and how do we optimize that? And we even talk about what it looks like for women specifically, and even the menstrual cycle, and how different breath work can be used during different phases of the menstrual cycle. Super interesting. This idea of like cycle syncing our breath work and our meditation is really cool. And JJ's an expert in this space and really just sheds light on this. He actually has a course dedicated to that, and I will link that in the show notes and on my website for you to easily access that. If you want to really understand how to do it properly and watch the videos and use this as something in your life, I think it would be a fabulous tool, honestly, for anybody. So enjoy this podcast episode. Before we dive in, a shout out to BiOptimizers. They have the best magnesium on the market. It has over 8 different types of magnesium in it, which is wild. And it is, I just use it all the time. I use it at night. I use it in the morning. My husband, Ryan, uses it as well, especially when he's stressed with work. And magnesium is involved in over 300 processes in the body. And so it's one of those minerals that we really need to be taking on the daily basis. Strongly recommend BiOptimizers. I will link them in the show notes. You can use my discount code BiohackingBrittany for 10% off all of their supplements. And a shout out to Novos, or someone, as someone pointed out to me. I honestly think it's my Canadian accent that makes me say that differently, but it's spelled Novos. And this is one of the best longevity anti-aging supplements on the market. So it targets all 12 hallmarks of aging in one powder drink, which is incredible. So it's orange flavored. I love it. I have it every single day. And it has a bunch of different ingredients in it that really target cellular aging. So if you're going to take anything for longevity, anything to really help with your aging over time, and you want to feel more energetic in the moment, Novos is what I would recommend. So get the Novos Core, which is the powder, and then they also have boosters. So they have like the NMN booster, which you can have as well to go with that. So check that out. Use my discount code on their subscription. You can get it sent to your house super easily. You don't have to think about it. Biohacking Brittany is my discount code for that, and I will link that everywhere as well. And I do want to just pop in and say this as well. My waitlist for my retreat is out. I am hosting a women's health optimization retreat in Costa Rica in March next year. I'm really excited about this. Like, I have like chills and goosebumps every time I think about doing it. When I reveal the venue for this, you guys, you're going to just be like mind blown. It's on a crystal quartz mountain. It's stunning. Like, this place, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. So if you want to get on the wait list, I strongly suggest you do that. There's limited capacity. There's not much I can do. There's limited capacity. Once all the spots are full, they are full, and that is that. And I'm just so excited about this. It's in my show notes. It's on my website. It's on my link in my bio and Instagram. But listen, if you just want the link, you want this super easy, go to Instagram right now on your phone, type in biohacking Brittany, send me a message and ask for the waitlist and I will send it to you. Going to be 5 nights, 6 days. And we're going to do things like, all the biohacking stuff, right? IV therapy, massage, maybe a facial, sauna, hot and cold therapy. We're going to do a cacao ceremony. It's also a full moon when we're going to be going. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about longevity, aging, hormones, all the things for women. And it's women only. So I'm so excited. Oh, it's going to be great. In Costa Rica, we're just going to be hanging out by the pool, talking about biohacking and enjoying the sun and listening to the birds. And I'm just so excited already. Like, where was this? I don't know. Yeah. So join us in Costa Rica, get on the list. I honestly think there's over 20 women already on the list, and I've barely even really been talking about it. So I really suggest you get on the list as soon as possible. And then I can meet you in Costa Rica next year. So enjoy this episode with JJ. Let me know what you think, and I will connect with you soon. I put out episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Fridays are solo episodes or Ask Me Anything episodes. If you ever have a question, shoot me a DM and I can help you out as well. Okay, enjoy this and I will catch you soon. Hello and welcome back to Biohacking with Brittany. Today I am joined by human optimization strategist JJ Ruescas, who helps high-performing leaders upgrade their physiology, mindset, and nervous system so they can lead without burning out. We are going to be diving into this idea of emotional fitness today, breathwork for women specifically, flow state, and really identity shifts in general. So, JJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brittany. I'm so excited. And just even before the conversation, we're having a great time. I think that's a great way to start into a flow state in a conversation. So I'm here for whatever that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually met in person, which was incredible. We got to meet at the Health Optimization Summit in April.
Yeah.
And I got to actually sit through one of your breathwork sessions. And it was beautiful and moving. And my husband actually did it as well. And I went up to you afterwards and I was like, you got to come on my podcast because I just feel amazing here. So how do you get to that point where you're just able to lead such a big group of people and have like a transformation within 45 minutes? Like, how do you do that?
First of all, one breath at a time. Let's put it that way. What means, and a little bit of my context, and this is something that rarely I have the chance to talk about. So thanks for bringing that question. I consider myself what in Japanese is called the shokunin. Shokunin is the artisan, the person who is continuously improving over and over again their craft. So what you have experienced in person there with me is not that I went to a certification and I got my 2-day certification and I'm like, okay, now I'm going to lead this. What it happens is that I am tinkering many things. I call it breathwork, but it's a combination of so many things. Obviously, respiration techniques, trauma-informed care, leadership based on nervous system regulation. I'm applying a little bit of hypnotic patterns. I'm applying so many things. Obviously, the music that you've heard and the ups and downs. And it was like, it's one thing at a time that has been improved over and over and over again. And not only for what the context has been created for the entire for the entire audience of people that are participating, the breathers, but also within me. So I need to be high performance first so that I can lead to others. Because even if I would not say any word, Brittany, the way that my body is sending information, even the way that my hormones and my smell of the day is sending information. And if I'm the guy like is like like doubtful about myself, that's gonna percolate through other people. So I have to be always, at least in those environments, high performance. And so going back to what you said is this one breath at a time. My team and people that I work with, they know that we never finish one session without a retrospective. Never. So and now we have AI, by the way, I have an AI agent that helps me do retrospectives. So that's how we iterate continuously and ad infinitum.
I love that. I love the one breath at a time. And I love that you actually really set the vibe, right? Like you set the stage and people mimic the vibe that you give off. And I think that's so true when we're doing these events in person. And this is something that I'm actually bringing into my business this year is starting to have these biohacking women events, day retreats or weekend retreats. And a big thing that I'm thinking about is how do I create this space so that women can come and get the breath of fresh air that they need. And you're right. Like it starts with me. It starts with you. It starts with the leadership component there, which is so interesting because you actually started in tech and now you're a human optimization strategist. So like, how did you go from tech? And my husband's in tech, so I've seen the world of tech. How did you go from that to being a leader that you can actually create transformation for people and lead through that? Like, how did you do that?
Ooh, talking about what you signal at the beginning of this conversation is the identity transformation or the identity optimization, I would call it. So I started in tech. Even before starting with tech, I have always had this curiosity around how can we improve this thing? I was the guy, the obnoxious kid that like, but why are we doing this? Right? And people were like, shut up, JJ, just follow the rule. But I was like, but there has to be another way to do this. So my curiosity towards continuous optimization, or what's called Kaizen, also in Japanese, it has been one of the main pillars that has guided my life. And so a way to apply continuous improvement, sometimes it's so difficult based on the bureaucratic institutions that we have nowadays or systems that require lots of time and effort to change. But in technology, it's not like that. In technology, at least, for example, developing software, it is so easy to apply change, right? You apply change that goes into that direction. If you have, and what you have is feedback. Did you obtain what you wanted? No. And so iterate, try again, feedback, try again until boom, success. Oh, yeah. And then you keep iterating over and over and over again. And so that was an alluring environment for me to get continuous feedback and to get into flow states. Feedback is one of the main components to get into flow state. So for me, solving problems is my flow state love language, so to speak. Okay. Everyone has a flow signature, flow state signature activity, and in my case, it's problem solving. So tech was for me that problem solving state. I'm not talking about myself sitting and trying to code something. Actually, it was more how the pieces fit and how if I change something here, then another system changes here, and another one here, and another one. So that rippling effect that takes place by one change is what my mind finds fascinating. So when I was in tech, I wasn't the geekiest of the geekiest, meaning I kind of knew how to code. I kind of could smell our software architectures. I was good at talking to the developers and talking to the product manager, which they may be speaking English, but it's a different English, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So I was in the middle, the guy in the middle, like, okay, but this person is saying this and this is saying this. And I was able to create not only harmony, but thankfully get teams to thrive in that case. And another factor was that thankfully the teams that I was able to lead over the years, we used to be very objective, measuring where we're at. And this is key in the realm of biohacking. We know that. Even Peter Drucker, the business guru of last century, used to say, what you can measure, you can manage. If you're not measuring something, how are we going to know if we're improving? So I was to be very objective with my teams, like where we are at.
Mm.
And many of them will say, I love this. They will say, oh, we're so good. Like, yeah, based on what your mom said, right? It's like, but being very objective. And from there, okay, what's the next step in what area? And we're going to try something. If we fail, that's okay. Feedback and then try again. Try another thing. Try another thing. And I was able to get teams, not myself as an I, but we were able to raise the standard of those teams to a level where there was less stress in software engineers. There were more productivity. Obviously, we had problems, but they were worthy problems to solve.
Yeah.
And that's also a key factor here, because at some point, those worthy problems to solve for me were not worthy anymore. I had enough fun until I didn't have enough fun anymore. There was no more fulfillment. So I had to find other ways to find fulfillment, right? And that's when, because of the curiosity that I have, I never stopped only in technology. Thankfully, I became a digital nomad when I was still in tech, which forced me to become high performant under any circumstances. Understanding how my body works, how my mind works, how my emotions work. And based on that, tinkering, experimenting, failing a lot, succeeding a little bit, those successes cool, write it down, taking lessons from all of that. And over time, I started realizing that, wait a second, this nervous system requires air, requires food, requires sleep, requires co-regulation. Maybe other ones may need something similar with little variations. And that's when I started training those tech teams from the human standpoint.
Wow. At some point, we've all been sold a big lie, including yours truly. It's called the protein lie. Starting in the 80s, supplement companies began pushing massive protein consumption. We all believed that more protein equaled more muscle growth. And I'm here to tell you that is a big fat lie. So let's say you eat an 8-ounce chicken breast and you're consuming about 40 grams of protein. However, just because something contains 40 grams of protein, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to absorb all 40 grams. Without enzymes, most of it ends up in the toilet bowl. Ouch. This is because your small intestine can only absorb protein that's been broken down into smaller building blocks called amino acids. It doesn't matter if you're consuming 30 grams of protein or 300 grams of protein. If you don't have a sufficient supply of enzymes to digest that protein, your muscles will be starving for those vital building blocks. That's why it's crucial you take a high quality enzyme. Before you run out and buy a bottle of enzymes, you need to know exactly what to look for. The sad truth is most enzymes are of little to no value if you want to build muscle. The hefty costs stop most companies from developing and stabilizing proteolytic enzymes. And so that's why the one that I trust and I use myself and love, and honestly, my whole entire family uses it, is called Mass Enzymes by Optimizers. Mass Enzymes is a full spectrum enzyme formula with more protease than any other commercially available, with 5 different kinds of protease. Plus, it contains all the other key enzymes you need for optimal digestion. Mass Enzymes is a full spectrum enzyme formula, and this is my go-to. And you can try it today, risk-free. Their 365-day full money-back guarantee is the gold standard in the industry. So go to biooptimizers.com/biohackingbrittany and use my discount code biohackingbrittany and you will get 10% off your order. I literally have a bottle of this Mass Enzymes in my car, at work, in my pantry, everywhere. I use it for big meals if I eat anything that's a little out of the ordinary. And it really helps me to feel better in my digestion and also makes me so much happier that I am absorbing my protein and getting the gains that I want. We all want more gains. So check it out and enjoy digesting your protein better.
Right. And it's so beautiful that we're having this conversation. Yesterday, I was leading an online breathwork session. And this engineer that used to be in my team many years ago was his first time there with me. I invited him and he showed up after years. Right. Wow. It was like full circle. It was like full circle, Brittany. And I love this situation because when we were working together, I remember I was focused on him as a human, not as an engineer, as a resource, air quote, resource. F that. I was focused on this person as a human. Like, how can I support this person's growth? Because I know that if this person is thriving, that's going to create a level of fulfillment in himself that is going to have a rippling effect, hopefully in his family, in the business, etc. That's a long-winded
Wow.
answer.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. Essentially, you took a growth mindset that you were applying to tech and you actually just started applying it to humans
Yeah,
and yourself, really. And you said
my
like,
guinea pig.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the tinkering, like what's working, what's not working. Okay. But then you got bored with it. And then you were like, okay, let's actually work on something bigger, almost like a bigger mission, right? Like helping people be healthier and helping people understand breath. I think that's really beautiful. How was your own journey with breath work during that time? Like,
Mm.
when you were working in tech, were you starting to experiment with breath and meditation and then you kind of just went into it full time? Or was there like a certain event that like pushed you to be like, oh, actually, this is something I really need to bring into my life?
It was a combination of those two. What do I mean? As I mentioned, many years ago, I was still working in tech. I was a digital nomad, so I was traveling throughout the world. And at some point, I didn't see my family in about 3 years or so. So I went to visit my family in South America. Now, let me ask you this question. What is the highest altitude place you've ever been on the planet, Brittany?
Kilimanjaro in
How
Tanzania.
how high is that one? Do you know in
Ooh,
meters or feet?
it would, it's 5,900 meters. Does that make sense? Yes.
50, yeah, 59. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. But I mean, it's a mountain. Like it took 5 days to climb.
Correct. Right. And how was the experience for your body there? What did you experience?
For breathing? Oh my word.
Breathing or no?
It was like you took one step and you were out of breath. Like it was obviously there's way less oxygen up there and it was freezing, even though it was sunny and it's in Africa. It was freezing. But yeah, it was very difficult to breathe.
Yeah. Hands down. So imagine that you were around 5,900 meter, 5,900 meter. I was born almost at a 4,000 uh, elevation city. So that was where I was born. And
Wow.
obviously, where the you don't ask a fish, hey, what's the water like? And the fish is like, what are you talking about? Right?
Yeah.
So in my case, I was born at a deficit of oxygen compared to the rest of the planet. But my nervous system never realized it until I was out of my city and I came back to visit. And guess what happened? Right as soon as I arrive, high altitude resisted with this punch in the nose that is like, so at that time I was already doing biohacking. I was already in my guinea pig. I had exposure to several at that time of the emerging biohacking trends at the time, sleep and movement and things that I needed to make sense. But at that moment, when that high altitude hit me badly, Brittany, I fainted. My family had to pick me up from the floor, take me to the restroom, and then to rest in a bed for several hours. But when I woke up, that's when I thought something that not I realized that not that many people would ask. So many people will say, "Oh, little poor me, why it hit me so hard?" Blah blah blah. In my case, curiosity sparked, and that was how does
Mm.
oxygen work in high altitude? And second, wait a second, my nervous system is designed to thrive here. What the hell just happened? And that what was the beginning of my path into understanding how oxygen works in high altitude. And also that started answering something that I don't think that many people realize this one. But when you went uphill to the Kilimanjaro, you had this lack of oxygen and it was so difficult. Guess what? When I used to go down to sea level, as soon as I landed, I had so much energy. It was crazy. I was
Yeah.
high, which is a surplus of oxygen. So all of these things started clicking in my mind like, oh, but not at a cognitive level.
Mm.
After understanding experientially, grokking it. That's what we call it. Grok it with the system. The mind started catching up, and that made sense. So that's what led me into first, how do I avoid future visits to high altitude places where I have to pay the price of pain? There has to be some way to do this. And I was not the only guy who went to high altitude and had that question. So that got me into breathing patterns, first for performance, which my curiosity led me later into the pranayamas, into the superventilations, into the one and the other one and the other one and the other one. Now, second time that my mind can recall is I was having this high performance training with Flow Genome Project. You know Flow Genome Project by Jamie Will. So I was with Jamie Will in Colorado many years ago. This is several years in my own journey of breathing practices. I have done at that moment superventilation. What do I mean superventilation is what you have experienced with me, right? It is when we are increasing the volume and rate of speed, and it's in a structured way, etc. So I was in Flow Genome Project in Colorado having high performance training with Jamie Will. And suddenly we went into this 90-minute or so breathwork pattern when this one was crazy because I was in the middle of a room of like 80 people. We had CEOs, we had athletes, we have actors there. And for some reason, I was right in the middle. It was just a coincidence. And the point is that I get into a state where I just went back immediately to my first ayahuasca experience, like out of nowhere. And from there, boom, to my breath, like in less than a split second, I was transported. And I started sobbing and sobbing and sobbing for like 45 minutes. 45 minutes. Yeah, it was memorable. Memorable not only for the mind, but mostly for the body, because there was this release of tension that may have been stored for decades. So that's when I thought, wait a second, there's something going on here.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and I think a lot of us honestly hold on to tension like that and potentially not even realize that that tension is just kind of like circulating and looping again and again and again. For the average person listening to this who might not have access to an ayahuasca ceremony or something that's like big and can kind of like, bring attention to that tension, how could they possibly know that, hey, there's something going on in my body that I need to release? And how would you recommend that they actually begin to release it?
Okay, with oxygen waska. What do I need? Yeah. What do I mean? It's like I have many people even that come to the sessions without having had any peak moment or peaks are the highs of the highs, but we have also trauma points, right? And what you mentioned is very interesting. We hold on to stress without even realizing that we are holding on to, and that is how detrimental or how suboptimally we start performing. So a little bit of a side note there. When there is a stress in the system braces mostly for impact, right? So it braces for impact, it creates some tension, but at the beginning it could be minimal tension, like just a little bit of tension there. But we start normalizing it. And the system that had a high performance, an optimal performance starts slowly declining, but so sadly that we do not realize it. It's basically how our nails grow, how our hair grows. It doesn't do it abruptly, right? Like one of those kids games that hair grows like this. It's not like this. Otherwise, we would realize how stress goes. But nowadays, we are in what I call this micro stressor environment when it's so low that the brain cannot perceive the change, and therefore it normalizes, and the next thing that we know is like, okay, we have digestive problems, we have continuous rumination of thoughts, etc. So those are signs or symptoms. Now, going back to what you said, right? How does an average, a normal person, I consider myself an overall person. That's it. I just am learning how to be a human based on JJ's nervous system and also ecosystem, right? Breathing patterns in this case, the way that you have experienced with me, superventilation, is a very affordable, accessible, and easy way to do it. Also for free. And by the way, I don't charge people for making them breathe. I charge people for making them not breathe, which has also a factor that I can explain in a second. What do I mean? So by changing strategically the way that our oxygen and carbon saturation work, we start getting into an altered state of consciousness. In other words, The radio station changes from beta, high beta, which turns to be, if it is chronicle, turns to be into a stressor response. We start changing it to alpha theta. And now this is where part of my research comes. When we're fluctuating between, let's say, beta radio station, too focused, too stressed, into delta, completely asleep, recharging the body, there is the in-between. Psychedelics, sexuality, plant medicine, obviously, near-death experiences, they take you from here into these realms in the middle. And here is where other type of processing happens, not cognitively. It's a combination between the nervous system processing and the mental at a deeper level processing. So going back to the releasing of stress that we may not even know that existed there, getting there through that kind of experiences are fantastic. Now, I'm not saying only based on superventilation that you see me doing that. I have also got into the same state by Vipassana retreats, by complete silent meditation. It was freaking painful as well. It took longer. It took longer. It was how I call it. I even had a podcast on this. I call it ayahuasca without ayahuasca. That's what I called it. But it is a matter of how efficient we are at getting at those states of releasing any mental or closing the loops, I would call it. More than releasing, is closing loops that have been open, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Imagine waking up each day feeling energized, mentally sharp, and visibly youthful, no matter your age. I've unlocked exactly that with Novus Core, and it's completely upgraded my approach to longevity. Novus Core is the only longevity supplement that targets all 12 key causes of aging, something no other product does. Most supplements only address one or two aspects of aging, but Novus Core is a complete formula designed to work across all the biological pathways of aging in one simple daily drink. Developed by leading longevity experts from Harvard Medical School and MIT, Novus Core is backed by serious scientific research. What makes Novus Core so effective? It's packed with 12 scientifically validated ingredients like fisetin, glycine, calcium alpha, ketoglutarate, and magnesium, each included at scientifically proven doses. These ingredients work together to protect your DNA, help reduce inflammation and cellular senescence, and support stem cell health, effectively slowing aging at its root causes. And here's something even more exciting. You don't have to wait years to feel the difference. 81% of Novus customers report noticeable improvements in their skin, mood, energy, or sleep within just 2 weeks, with even greater benefits accumulating over time. Since incorporating Novus Core, I've experienced incredible boosts in my energy, honestly, like right away when I'm drinking it, improved sleep, sharper cognition, and balanced moods, and even visibly healthier skin, which we all love. I genuinely feel younger, healthier, and more vibrant every single day when I have this. If you are ready to take your longevity journey to the next level, you can visit novuslabs.com and use my discount code biohackingbritney for 10% off of your first month subscription of Novus Core. That's novuslabs.com with code biohackingbritney for 10% off your first month's subscription. Enjoy and let me know what you think. Yeah, that's beautiful. Ayahuasca's been on my radar for a while. I haven't done it yet. And it would be something I would love to explore in the next couple of years. But I have dabbled with, psilocybin and had my own healing through psilocybin, especially microdosing multiple times, was quite profound. And so I'm very much for plant medicine. I think there's a time and place for it. And I do think, like you said, though, there is a lot of space for breathwork or being silent or doing these retreats. It doesn't necessarily have to be some sort of plant compound that we ingest that helps you, grow into the human that you're supposed to be. I just see that. I think some people are also nervous about plant medicine. I think there's a bit of hesitancy there. So I think there are different ways that we can get there. Just depends kind of what you're open to. I want to talk. Yeah.
You have a good point there. Before I miss the point, this is what I call precision healing and precision optimization.
Mm.
So, not because I have done plant medicine means that everyone should do it. Not because other people have done something that means that I should do it. My curiosity, now this is only JJ's philosophy. My curiosity is way higher than my sense of self-preservation. Okay, so that is only my rule. So I'm freaking curious. I'm gonna try something for the sake of trying it, but obviously based on an experimenter's mindset. I'm not saying I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna pop up a pill in a concert and let's see what happens. That's very different. I'm not talking about that kind of air quote experimentation. I'm talking about a more strategic and more careful experimentation. Even when I do my solo journeys, for example, with psilocybin, it is JJ's, literally, I have notes. I have recorded devices, I have cameras, I have microphones. It's like JJ is trying this thing, how many grams at this moment, and this is what is starting to happen. That's the reason I have recording so that I don't need to record stuff or like write it down when I'm deep in the journey. Right. With microdosing, same thing. Even with breathwork, I've done the same thing. What would happen if I, for example, I'm in front of you in this seat, and I will be, let's say, wearing a buteco belt, a belt that constricts the diaphragm so that I become more aware of it. Even that's a fantastic experiment. So, what does experiment mean? Starting at one point, having an end of that experiment, and then seeing the results. What happened in between? If I like the results, try next experiment. If I didn't like it, throw it away, plan another experiment.
Yeah, I love that. Again, it's back to the tinkering that you're talking about that you love to do, which I think is really smart. I want to dive into women's health specifically here. And obviously, you have a lot of experience working with men and women in terms of regulating nervous systems, breathwork, meditation. Can you kind of just shed a bit of light on the differences that you see between men and women in nervous system regulation when you kind of guide them through any of your practices?
Yeah. Let me put like a wrapper on this one to answer that completely. So, going back to this idea of precision healing and precision optimization, what does that mean? That the things that will work for me to heal the system or get the system to recover and then to keep optimizing it may not be the same as yours. For example, the breathwork practice that you've gone with me clearly worked for you. It was like your nervous system felt amazing, right? But maybe for another person, and I remember the guy that was you were on the back area around your same line. There was another guy who had a profound catharsis, Brittany. The guy had a profound catharsis. Later came to talk to me. The guy who could not even speak properly, and he was like, his nervous system was like that. So I said, "Can I hug you?" I hugged him, and he started sobbing.
Oh my gosh.
He started
Wow.
sobbing, right? So in his case, what it worked for you as a technology for optimization, for him was a technology for healing. You know what I mean? So why
Yeah.
I'm talking about this is because nowadays we can start with information because Andrew Huberman says this thing, because this other doctor says this, because but trying that out, not adhering to that as a dogma. And this is now answering your question. What are the main differences? I've worked with many, many female leaders specifically, and they are CEOs, they are founders of companies, and they're driving teams towards better outcomes, creating massive disruptions in industries. What sometimes happens is that because there is a male dominant blueprint out there on the ether, on the digital ether, many times even women decide to use those patterns or those advice, that good intended advice, on their nervous system, and that starts wreaking havoc. What do I mean? I used to work with this girl. She used to be the CMO, or she is the CMO of a company, still a big company, and she was so adamant on saying, "I need to wake up at 5 a.m. I need to wake up 5 a.m. because that's when I do most of my stuff, and I do most of my work, and I have this and that and that and that." And I asked, "Where did you get this idea of waking up at 5 a.m.?" Well, I read the book of the 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, and I
Yeah.
said, okay. I said, this one works for Robin Sharma. I said, but you're a female. I said, I need you to respect your cycles. I get it that sometimes waking up 5 a.m., great, but not all the time. And it was brand news for her. She had never had anything. So I said, what if we would do an experiment? What if we would do an experiment? Don't even trust me blindly. What if you and I would experiment? Let's say 2 weeks. Oh, what's your phase? You're in what phase you are? I'm in this phase. Okay, great. What if you would allow your body to do this and this and that for just 2 weeks? And let's see what happens. At the end of the day, of those 2 weeks, you can let me know. We can throw away this experiment or whatever. Guess what happened? 2 weeks later, she's feeling amazing. There was no pressure of waking up 5 a.m. Her body was feeling amazing. She's more focused. She's more productive. And she said, I never thought that I was working against my own nature.
Wow.
Answering your question, one of the things is that in order to get into high performance, we can do it using the mind, or the other one is using the mind and the body. Same thing with breathing. We can breathe with the body, we can breathe with the mind, or a combination of both of those ones. So many people say, I need to use box breath to downregulate because fill in the blanks, the name of the guru said it. Even if that freaking guru is JJ, right? And I sometimes joke, I said, even the things that I'm telling, please use critical thinking.
Yes.
Throw away things that do not work, right? And so I've worked with so many people, Brittany, especially also in breath repatterning and optimization, that box breathing for some people, guess what? Instead of relaxing them, it gets them even more anxious. But because they have heard someone who says that box breathing works for them, they try to fit their body into this box when they don't realize that they're trying to do something that doesn't match, and they need to find another shape. Box is one shape. We have circles, we have triangles, we have rectangles, we have rectangles that are this way. I'm like, so many ways, right? So answering again a little more in depth, it is understanding what is the advice from out there that we're consuming, but then listening to the body, not only with the mind, but listening with that voice that is so silent and from here, and start using critical thinking. And that is when the difference between males and females' performance comes different. Getting into a flow state for a male and a female could be different. High performance, sustainable high performance, because of the infradian rhythms and the circadian rhythms. Your hardware and my hardware are different. And the moment that I learned that, I said, what is this high advanced technology? I'm still a monkey compared to you. I'm still a primate. Right. So I learned so much about that, and it was very humbling. So starting to understand their own body and like listening, mind body connection is key in starting to find things around breathing, things around recovery, things around nutrition, sleep, co-regulation, etc.
I love that. Yeah, it's pretty profound what the women's body's capable of doing. Obviously, women bring life into the world, and that is a whole discussion on its own. But I think it's beautiful that you're focusing on the cycle and how can we support the menstrual cycle through breath work. Every single day, a woman is different. Her hormonal levels are different throughout the month, whereas men operate on a 24-hour cycle, right? So it's a complete misunderstanding to take the same principles and apply them every single day if biologically and physiologically we're different. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And so I think that needs to ripple out into how we meditate and how we breathe and how we do these things. And there are a lot of high-performing, high-achieving women who listen to this podcast. And a lot of them are moms, or they're kind of on this fertility journey. So what would you recommend to them, or what are some tools that they can use to emotionally support themselves when they're juggling so much in just a single day and they're trying to like optimize and feel good and feel better about themselves? Like, what can they actually do as a practice on a day-to-day basis that you would recommend?
Okay, let's go first with the breathing patterns. Maybe that is one of the most optimal. As you mentioned, breathing is the technology that is sometimes taken for granted. But the moment that someone starts lacking of oxygen, they're going to feel it. So why not using that same awareness to bring back to the present and start performing in an optimal way? Now, when I mean optimal way, I'm not talking high performance hustle culture. I'm talking about what does optimal mean for me in this state under these circumstances. What does it for me to be performed optimally in this state under these circumstances? Let me give you an example from my life, and then we're going to apply it to your audience. So right now, in my case, for example, I have an injury here in my left forearm. So I can literally, I try to I'm going to use even the smallest kettlebell. No, even that hurts. So I had to just, instead of just hustling my way until my full arm doesn't work anymore. It's like, okay, what can I do? And the mind sometimes is like, oh, you can do nothing, JJ. Like you're gonna get fat and you're gonna lose all your athletic skills, and that's how the mind starts going like this.
Yeah.
And then I will say, wait a second. Thank you for telling me this. I really appreciate it, but you're not helping right now. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So,
Yeah.
healthy distance. And then that's when wisdom and curiosity come handy. Because guess what? I found so many workouts that are wrist and arms free workouts. So I still am working out lots, taking care of this based on the current situations, right? In a couple of weeks, when this thing is healed, I'm going to go back to where I was. Not even go back, I would say go even better. So going back to what you said on the audience is, first of all, taking notes. Many people journal a little bit, but I don't think that many people journal what are they feeling, what are they thinking. And that doesn't mean that we need to sit down for like 10 minutes or 5 minutes. It's just a note, having a note and like, oh, I'm feeling this way. I'm noticing this thing. Okay, period. That's it. 30 seconds. Sometimes even a voice note. But once that is in place, we can start seeing patterns across time, especially for females. That is fantastic. It was like, oh, I was talking to a girl that yesterday who was telling me, I know that 5 days prior to my period, I'm going to start feeling this and this and this way. And it's like 5 days, boom. So she knows her body so much that because she's been taking notes of that, not only in the mind, but in a notepad or her specific notepad app. Now, breathing patterns. When we are let's go specifically to the case of women. Let's divide it. And I think you had an episode with a company that had supplements for female based on their cycles. I remember that.
Yeah.
So I love how they divide it into those two sections, right? They divide it into the follicular and the luteal, not discarding the menstrual and the ovulatory ones. But I think that is a very smart way to do it. So to simplify things, follicular, it is more energy. So we're on the rise of more energy. So having a more active breathing practice or having more energy in the body, the display of energy is going to create more energy, which is going to create at the same time a deeper rest at night. So it is tinkering not only with how we are breathing, but also what activities we're engaging into, and then knowing that is going to contribute for sleep optimization. On the luteal phase, is going to be the opposite. Okay, we need to start getting more into a recovery state, and that lower levels of estrogen, higher levels of progesterone are going to start increasing by default our respiratory rate in the case of women. When that happens, that is when there is a correlation between respiratory rate and mostly anxiety or PMS symptoms. There are nowadays many studies that have been taking place around that. Specifically, what is the correlation between high progesterone, high respiratory rate, PMS? Now, by slowing down the breathing pattern, consciously doing it, by training the system then is going to start learning like, oh, I can do this without even thinking. Cheated, big bucks there, right? Because we're not investing time cognitively. The body has automated that slowed exhale, and then we're casting votes for recovery, which is going to be in the long run better to deal with the stressors of the day to day, which is going to also lead to a better recovery in terms of night recovery. So I'm giving you a glance of how we can divide this one, an algorithm, so that we can see, starting from breathing practices, how that works.
That's incredible. I love that. I think, first of all, it's just, I'm so happy that you know the cycles and the phases of the menstrual cycle. Like, it's just really refreshing to have a man be like, yeah, the luteal phase. Like, finally. Yeah, I do agree with what you're saying. I think there is different breath work that makes sense during different phases, like based off of our hormones. That just makes sense. But I do find that women are often juggling so much and hold so many roles, and they multitask so much that even like, how do you get a woman who has 3 kids and is running a successful business and has a husband at home and has like all of these things? Like, how do you get her to understand her cycle and actually just be able to show up for herself better? Like, I guess what I'm asking is like, is there some sort of 10-minute practice that she can do that is really going to make a difference here for getting into that flow state that we all are trying to kind of get into? Like, how do you, yeah, like, what are your recommendations for getting into flow state for women? Because, like, I need to know that even in my own life, and I don't even work full time right now. So,
Let me answer with what I call micro, mini, and macro recoveries. And let me put a pin on this one because I'm going to come back to this. Before I forget, I have already a course that is for females that have those 15 to 20 minute breathing practices based on their
great.
cycle. So if you want later, I can send it to your audience
Yes.
with something that would be beneficial to you. Now, that is obviously for every cycle, there is a breathing pattern there. So there's no need to thinking, what do I need to do now? Go and listen and boom, voila.
Nice.
Now,
I love that.
that is something that is 15 to 20 minutes. That is what I call mini recovery. Now, let's talk about this thing. I call it the micro, mini, and macro recoveries. What do I mean? A micro recovery is something that gets us back in the present within 1 to 3 minutes. Whether this is a breathing practice, whether it's shaking, whether it's having what I call a movement reset, a song movement reset. So a song where you can move the body and start shaking everything, that starts dissolving any cortisol, any surplus of cortisol and adrenaline in the body, getting back into the body, into the present moment, and from there taking action. And I have clients that I work at top of their careers, as you mentioned. They have multiple roles, but the movement part is so important, right? Or the humming part, and it takes, like as I mentioned, 1 to 3 minutes. Whether it's the humming in the shower. I got so many clients who hum in the shower their favorite songs, or just sing if they like it. But that micro part, as I mentioned, something that can be done even while we're cooking, even while we're playing with kids, and be made it part of that same game, so that they also get part of this co-regulation at the same time individual regulation. So that's micro. Then the mini is something that takes 10 to minutes to 1 hour. Let's say top to 2 hours. So that could be a longer breathing practice. That could be a meditation. That could be journaling that takes you 10 minutes or so. You can do if you want to take even a longer shower, fantastic. That's regulating. And you can stack those technologies, as I mentioned, in shower plus humming, or the other one that I like, one of my friends that does this like this, putting one hand here and the other one in the back, and then hum, that accentuates the humming, etc. Right? So something that purposely, intentionally takes 10 minutes up to 2 hours at most. That is where the workout comes as well. Even a power nap or NSDR. I don't know if you've talked in the podcast about NSDR, but non-sleep deep, non-NSDR means non-sleep deep rest. Highly recommended, which is another type of hypnosis that gets people into that state through suggestion, etc. And then the macro is okay. The macro is something that takes 8 hours or more. So that requires more intentionality, more time commitment, but the return of investment of that action is way more powerful. So you have the 3 elements there that you can incorporate daily. Let's say the micro daily, how many times? 3 to 5 times easily during the day, easily. And that is coming back in any role that the person is experimenting, coming back to the present, changing the state. Then the mini could be one day, once every 2 days. And then the macro could be once a week, once every 2 weeks, even better if it is coordinated with the partner, even way better. Right?
Yeah.
So by scheduling that kind of recovery and flow states, is that the body continuously starts going from optimal performance to optimal recovery, optimal performance to optimal recovery. So we're treating ourselves as athletes.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. I love the idea of humming and activating the vagus nerve through that. And obviously there's devices as well, like Pulsetto does that, which is really great. I just started using but I sing a lot to my son to put him to sleep. And it's so interesting because like I don't know the last time I was singing until I had him. And then suddenly I'm singing like Silent Night every night. And I'm like so relaxed while I'm singing to him. And I can just feel how calm it is. And so it is something that really, really does work. And I also really love the idea of journaling. So I started doing the 5-minute journal, which is so basic, I know, but I've actually noticed success with it. Like every morning I'm writing down like, what am I grateful for? What is my, what are my goals for today? Whatever the 3 questions are. And, and then at the end of the day, there's like a section of reflection. And it does give that pause, that mini recovery that we're talking about.
Yep.
Um, so it can be annoying to write in the journal, and I'm not good at keeping a journal. But when it's like literally less than 5 minutes and you see the benefit and then you start seeing the patterns, which I've already started to see, like, oh, I'm grateful for very similar things day to day. And it's usually the most basic things that I'm actually super grateful for. Or like my highlights on my day are usually like time outdoors with my kid. It's like over and over again, I'm writing down the same thing. And then I start to actually weave that into my life more because obviously that's making me feel good. So
Right.
I think there are some very basic things that we can do to be in the flow state as we go through mom, working, wife, whatever, these different hats that we might wear to kind of like optimize our life in general.
You pointed out something very interesting, that is, this thing of journaling is, I would call it externalizing the thoughts. Now, many people, they think that it is sitting down and hand on the hand and paper and write it down. But that's one way to do it. Another way that we've done it also in micro mini recoveries is talking out loud. And now we have AI tools. So I would get many clients to, for example, go on walks, get the headphones, and get their GPT, other AI, any tool, so that they are transcribing. So people think that they are talking on the phone, and they are just journaling and ranting and ranting and ranting, right? And then, oh, the system feels so good after offloading that, and they have captured great ideas,
Wow. Brilliant.
right? So that's another type of air quote journal. I call it
Cool.
externalizing. So for someone who says, but I don't, it's not that they say that they think that they have enough time. There is the resistance that gets created towards any type of recovery practice. We know cognitively that makes sense, but we don't take action. So in this case is, how do we minimize or remove completely the friction in order to get into those practices? It's not, so this is one of the things that I say, Brittany, it's not that there's a lack of techniques. What it lacks is that when there is resistance, we don't know how to remove that resistance or minimize that resistance.
Yeah.
And this kind of hacks or tricks, emotional, psychological, eh, and accessibility tricks are what makes the difference. This movement reset song that I was telling you, for example, I already have a playlist of songs. It's like, okay, I want this, or just ask my Spotify to start playing it, and then 3 minutes I'm doing that. What you're doing with your kid is another way of recovery, co-regulation, right? For example, with my girlfriend, when she arrives, when we both are coming from maybe hectic days at work or meetings, etc., first thing that we do, dropping in. In my case, what works for me is physical connection. So holding hands, eye contact, both nervous system start softening, and it takes less than 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I can be a human again, and then we can human optimally.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, different things work for different people, but um, there is something so good and nice about feeling grounded. That's like really what I've been trying to cultivate in my life lately is like, how do I feel more grounded? I don't want to be up here operating all the time. I want to be like down here, calmer, just like, yeah, I don't even know how else to say it other than grounded. And there's certain practices that you can do that really bring that in. For me, a lot of it is nature based, but can also be breath work.
Correct.
And just, yeah, to feel like centered with myself. And then once you are in that state, that is really where the magic comes, right? Like that's where you get the breakthroughs about your business, or you're able to have a deep discussion with your partner, or you're able to like work through some sort of trauma that's been like in the back of your head for how many years or how long, right? So it's getting into that place and kind of bringing that into your day is hard, but it's doable. But it's just hard. I guess it's hard because it's against hustle culture, right? It's saying like, because there is this idea of the more you work, the more successful you'll be. You can sleep when you're dead. Like all of that praise to hustle culture, like 7 cups of coffee a day, wake up at 3 a.m., like all of this stuff. And it's so against our biology. And then we burn out.
Yeah.
And then where does that leave us with our relationships, with everything, right?
Yeah. I have this saying that it is the hardest pose for an entrepreneur or leader is Shavasana.
Yes. I feel that.
And it's a corpse pose. That is it, right? That's the hardest one. We do everything, but doing that one is like, no, my God, it's so difficult. But that is the one that gets us reaping the rewards. And actually, you have experienced that with me. So during the breathwork session, I got the system of the entire room to like, boom, upregulate, downregulate, upregulate, downregulate. But at some point, we finished the session, and that is when actual recovery starts, because zoom, that is when people went somewhere else in their minds, and then they came back. That's when you see the visions. That's when you see the colors. That's when you connect with. That is at that moment. So that is even by design part of what I'm creating, because I know that is the ROI, the return of investment of people's effort.
It's like that sense of peace.
Yeah.
Afterwards,
Zen
it's beautiful.
state. That's what I call it.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, it's incredible. Feels so good. Feels so good. This has been an amazing discussion. Thank you for everything. If women listening to this want to do your breathwork course that you talked about, where can they find that? And if they want to message you on Instagram or go to your website, where can people connect with you?
My website is jjruescas.com. That is jjruescas.com. And that's okay if you cannot pronounce it properly. You did a great job, by the way. You did a great job. Thanks for practicing your hours. I really love it.
Yes.
And in the website, you're going to find the store as well. In the store, you're going to see this course is called the Femme Breath. And also, before I forget, we're also keep doing, on the research. I have a small research team. So after some of the live and virtual sessions for ladies that want to help, we have an anonymous survey to help us see how was the experience. So that was it too intense? Was it not intense enough? What phase of their cycle we're at? So that helps us keep iterating this course specifically for women, right? And besides that, in the website, we have other practices around breathing. For example, breathing while we are driving, breathing while we are walking, breathing while we're in the shower. Hey, all of that have a breathing. There's a breath for that. Nice. That's how we say it. There's a breath for that. And so that's the simplest way. And Instagram and the newsletter, I think, is one of the best ways as well. The jjruescas.com/newsletter. Every Friday, I release 3 topics that I consider would be helpful for their optimization around physiology, psychology, and emotions. And that's it.
Amazing. I need to sign up for your newsletter. I want to be a part of it. I want to know your topics that you want to talk about or you think people need to hear about. I will put all of that in the show notes and on my website so people can find you easily. Thank you so much. This was so enlightening, and I know so many people are going to get a lot out of this.
Amazing. Brittany, also the work that you're doing is amazing, and I wanted to congratulate you for that and thank you, as I know that many, many people are doing. So I hope to see you soon in person as well, with your husband and your kid having another experience.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to Biohacking with Brittany, where women optimize. If you loved this episode, share it, subscribe, and leave a review to help more women step into science-backed, soul-led wellness. To go deeper, check out the show notes for upcoming retreats, live events, my course, and the latest on socials. Until next time, keep listening to your body, trusting your intuition, and optimizing every step of the way.